All right, YouTube says we're live. Welcome to Corner Comics, episode number 5. This is your weekly comic book reading club. I'm joined by Russ. Russ, how you doing this weekend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Had a bunch of good books this week. Ready to talk about them.
Yeah, we've got 6 issues that we're going to run down and just sort of go through art, story, overall impressions. We were going to be joined by Emmanuel. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it this week, but he did submit 2 issues for us to talk about. So we're going to definitely include his picks this week. Running down the issues that we're going to be talking about, I have 2. I brought in Superman number 132. This is a comic from 1998. My second issue is Marvel Fanfare number 5, which is a mid-'80s comic. And Russ, which 2 do you have?
I have a comic that came out this month, Fantastic Four number 16, and I have Collapser number 5.
Which both came out, I think, this
Yeah,
month.
both. This also came out this month.
And
Well,
then,
it's on the rack.
right. And then the issues that Emmanuel has submitted to us: Injustice 2, issue 37, which is a 2017 comic, and Shirtless Bear Fighter number 1, which is also a 2017 comic. I think we've both heard about Shirtless Bear Fighter and just needed a reason to read it, so Emmanuel gave us
There,
that reason.
good on him for that.
Do you want to go through them in order, or do you have any particular one that you want to talk about first?
Well, anyone you like. What are you feeling?
We can go in order, I think. We'll
Okay.
start with Superman 132. Do you remember this issue?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read this book before, back in 1987 or whatever it is, 88, 87, when it came out, however many hundreds of years ago that was.
Right. So this issue actually came out in 98. It's from the 87 run of Superman.
Oh, okay.
Um, it is the tale of 2 Supermen, red and blue. I think it's the second time that they've done that. So this is after the death of Superman, quite a few years, but they were trying to rebrand Superman, I guess, and give him a new suit and make him more interesting for all of the kids to read. And it kind of worked on me. I remember walking into a drugstore and seeing it on the spinner rack and being like, "What the hell? Superman has a new suit. Let me pick this up." Um, and so I don't know. I was feeling kind of nostalgic, and I wanted to get some older issues in here that we could talk about. So this is one of the ones that I picked. Um, do you remember the blue electric Superman?
Oh yeah. But see, my history goes way back to the first Superman Red and Superman Blue, which is probably 60s or something. But in that, there was a red kryptonite that split Superman Red and Superman Blue. One was good, one was evil,
Right.
and they had to fight each other, and it was all done in one issue. But then they did sort of an Elseworlds, also in that same vein, or one shot What If, where Superman, I don't know, something, his powers started getting exponentially big and they wanted to do something about it. And they split him into 2 Superman,
Okay.
Superman Red and Superman Blue. Both the same dude, both the same everything except for the color of their costume. And in that book, one of them married Lois Lane and one of them married Lana Lang, and they, we got everything resolved all in one issue, and it was a good issue, sort of as a what if you were the Superman at that time.
Right.
Now this Superman, this one from this book, they made an electric Superman,
Right.
right? They were like they not only did they change him, they changed his powers. He was basically like Photon from the Marvel universe or
Right.
something,
Yeah.
and they radically changed the attitude. Like Superman Red was sort of a badass. He was talking mess to people and telling them to chill. Superman doesn't say chill.
Right.
Uh, uh, and so, but that did get me interested to see, like, what do you do if Superman has an attitude? Because whether you're not going to pimp slap him, what are you going to do if Superman has an attitude? You just got to suck it up and take it, right?
Right.
Uh, uh, so in this book, they didn't know each other. They didn't know each other existed. but they were doing their life, and they just happened to keep missing each other until at the very end of this book, where they met each other face and was thinking that the other one was the wrong one or an evil shit or
Right.
whatever. So the art is very dated. It was fine back then in the day. This is some, this is some old booty crumbling art. I mean, it was good for its time, but it's not good now. It's not terrible. It's clear, but it's more like if an artist drew that way now, he probably wouldn't get a job.
Okay. All right.
Uh, I do remember picking up. It was interesting in that what are their powers, because it doesn't really say clearly what their powers are.
No.
It's almost like he has the same powers, but now he's got some electrical powers, and everything is electric on his costume.
Yeah.
And he's got a different attitude, even as Clark Kent, a little more badass, especially the red one. And I like the fact that the red Superman had a red tie,
And the
still
blue.
dressed in
Yeah.
yeah, this blue Superman had a blue tie, so we, as the audience, could tell the difference between which Clark Kent is the one talking, even though you could probably tell by the attitude.
Well, and Lois Lane figures it out too.
Yeah, but she only figures it out once the second one comes along.
Right. Well, but
Right?
it's by the tie. She can
Yeah,
tell
there
that.
you go.
Yeah. She's like,
So she doesn't know her man. She can't tell.
Yeah, so I can't remember if the electric suit and powers was because of Cyborg Superman.
I don't remember. I don't know, and it certainly doesn't explain that.
I know for a fact that Cyborg Superman and Toyman are the reason that the new Superman has split into red and blue. And I guess that's in another issue. I don't remember reading the whole arc. I just remember like this is one of those issues that I picked up partly because of the cover and like how drastic they had changed Superman. So I thought it was interesting just to bring into, I don't know, a bit of a nostalgia trip. The interesting thing too is like Justice League. You've got Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Flash. The Aquaman redesign was in this too, where he had the hook and half the arm and the long hair, and I remember people were outraged back in the day when they did that, and I always thought it was cool. I thought it was a good idea to.
I think outrage sells books.
Yeah, totally.
So I think you got to do something outrageous because, nowadays is Aquaman really that interesting? Right.
Right.
When you think Submariner, who never has his own book for long, he's only interesting when he's Hulk smashing out there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you want to know what's happening. Otherwise, he's not that. I think he's more. For example, Submariner is better as a villain, more interesting as a villain than as a good guy.
Okay.
Plus, it's not like the world is really knowing what's happening in Atlantis. It's not like that's really relevant to us.
Yeah. To go off on a bit of a tangent because you bring up Submariner. So somebody I follow on Twitter was posting copies of or like images of issues of Supervillain Team Up, which was Submariner or Namor and Doctor Doom. And I was like, I need to look these up. I need to find these. They're probably pretty cheap. I'm sure nobody's collecting those.
You're probably right. And we should be able to get these digitally, but that's a whole nother conversation. I should be able to find me an old book like that. I just want a digital copy. Why do I have to pay $12? You know what I mean?
Right.
No one's buying these. You're not printing them anymore.
Right. Yeah, they should be a quarter.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind paying a quarter for every old. I'll buy an old run of something that I want that you're not going to print anymore anyway. But that's another comic industry thing. Like, I think there's missed opportunity there. Like, if people want to go back and read these books, let them be able to buy them and let it not be cost prohibitive. You're just making money on books you already own. You don't have to even advertise it, right? So it says, I want to go read that book, and then you go back and you get them, right? And they're all sitting there anyway. There's someone scanned all these in years ago. Why is it that I know Marvel's making enough money? Why not make some more? Or DC in this case,
right?
Get these old books, man. People will share it online, and hype will increase.
Yes. This is actually a great segue. So give me 1 minute.
I'll be right here. Now that I've got you all to myself, what shall I tell you? Hmm. No, he would just get me later. Plus, here he is.
All right, so the next issue that I'm bringing in is Marvel Fanfare number 5, which coincidentally is reprinted. Let me get the light adjusted here. Which is reprinted in Marvel Tales featuring Doctor Doom, issue number 1. And I picked this up at the comic book shop this week. It's brand new, but it's a collection of reprint issues. So like these are all of the issues that show up. I don't know if you can see that or if it's too.
That's a good angle right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually pretty good quality. Like way better than what it would look like, if you were to try and find these issues again. Um, so yeah, but I think this was $7, and there's 4 issues in here, so it's not too bad,
It really depends on how much you're willing to pay for a reprint.
Right. But I thought it was worth it, and that's how I got the idea to do some older issues. And one of the reasons I picked Marvel Fanfare number 5. So Marvel Fanfare number 5 is actually 2 stories. I focused on the Doctor Strange story because that's what's in the physical comic that I picked up this week. And it is the story of Doctor Strange, his significant other, I guess you would say, and him fighting this other sorcerer. And it's a one-off. It's written by Chris Claremont, art by a gentleman that I've never heard of before. I'm trying to look for his name real quick.
And may never hear of again.
Right. Marshall Rogers and Craig Russell. So it's 2 guys that did the art. Yeah, I thought this was an interesting issue. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, so first of all, I've probably read everything Marvel Fanfare. Marvel Fanfare at the time was sort of the greatest book ever because it just gave you never knew what you were going to get. There were at least 2 great stories in there, rotating characters. So I like Marvel Fanfare, and I remember reading this particular book.
Awesome.
Now, comparing the problem is I also have read some current Doctor Strange. Right. So when I compare these 2, I'm not necessarily a fan of the art, but at the time, I don't know if I was a fan of the art at the time either, but it was clear it worked at the time. What I didn't like about it is Clea. In the current Doctor Strange, Clea is a badass. And you know her heritage. She has great, immense power. But in here, she's just his girlfriend. Right? Come to bed, Stephen. You know what I mean?
Right,
she has
right.
great power, right? But who she is, and I don't know if it's something of the time when they wrote this. Maybe women's lib wasn't big enough. I don't know, but she's just there. There's even a part where he's coming out of the bedroom with her behind him.
Yeah.
Sort of right. And I'm thinking, wow, I probably didn't even. I walked right over that back in the was even an issue for me.
No, yeah.
But now that I read current Doctor Strange, I'm like, no, that's not a good character. That's not a really good way to portray her. Like if Storm of the X-Men was in the background behind Black Panther, I'd be like, no, you messed up Storm. Storm should be walking with him or in front of him, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was glaring for me. All in all, serviceable story. There were some predictable elements, I will say. And I never heard of this villain before this issue. I don't even know if he's ever come back again.
Nicodemus. So apparently he was in the Defenders or All New Defenders or whatever in the 80s, which makes sense because I think Claremont did some writing on that comic for a while, and doing this one shot, he probably just brought in the characters that he was familiar with. Yeah, I don't know. I like the artwork.
Wow.
Specifically with the reprint. The colors are probably a lot more clear than they would have been. Like my experience with a lot of early '80s stuff is they ran them off pretty quick from the press, and sometimes you had that like color bleeding, and um, wasn't always the most wasn't always the best printing of an issue. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know the story. I love how verbose Claremont is.
I'll give you that.
He's probably one of the most verbose comic writers. And it's interesting to sit down and read an issue or a comic that he's done because you get so much about the inner monologue and also what's happening in the scene, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's interesting for me.
Okay. But I'm still mad at the whole Clea thing. I'm just going through it again, and I'm looking. Right after the fire, Clea has her dress torn down to here. Right. There's even a butt crack shot.
There
I'm
is.
just thinking. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, come on, dude. But I agree with you, and the fact because it didn't occur to me at the time when I first read this back whatever years ago. It is interesting that Chris Claremont wrote this, and I have to give you that point on that. There's a lot of words here,
Yeah.
and they're not all extraneous. But I do get a sort of an X-Men vibe from it a little bit, so that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, from that era for sure. um, okay, do you want to get into your issues?
Sure. My first book is Fantastic Four, Volume 6, Number 16, came out this year. Art by somebody I don't really know, but the story is by Dan Slott, who I do remember. Uh, uh, what I liked about it is it felt like the Fantastic Four are back. Like for me, my memory of the Fantastic Four, my enjoyment of them, not just the family aspect, is they always took a beating in issue number one. And issue number two, they were always faking it. And they were like, we already knew how we were going to get out of this. Right. Like we take an L and it looks like we're really in despair. How are we going to ever get out of this? Even when Dr. Doom traps them, and not in this one, but Dr. Doom will trap him, and it's like you have to calculate everything. You'll never get out, and somehow they already have some, way to get out. They already,
Right.
there's something about them you didn't know, or something about them you didn't think they were aware of. And this to me made it classic, uh, uh, Fantastic Four. What do you say?
I've never been a huge fan of Fantastic Four. I don't know why. It's just one of those that I couldn't ever get into. So I tended to reading through this issue, and I haven't been following Dan Slott's work on it. I know his run on I want to say Silver Surfer
Hmm.
a couple of years ago was really big, and a lot of people liked it. Um, but I'm not really familiar with his work either. So I kind of focused on the utopia dystopia
Hmm.
um, theme that was running through the book, and that was kind of interesting. It's been done before, having the forced utopia, and like, oh, look how perfect our civilization is, and no, really they're just crazy tyrannical. Um, but the artwork I thought was amazing.
Agreed.
I'm definitely gonna follow this guy. It's did we mention his name at all by chance?
Well, because I didn't. His name is Sean Isaacs. Isaacsy.
Okay, so I don't know how to pronounce his last name either. Izaakse. Um, but yeah, this is a really good, like, clean modern art style. The panels flow really nicely. The action is there. The facial expressions are there. The coloring is actually really good, which is another gentleman that was on this, Marco Menez, I believe, or Menez. Um, yeah, I
But yeah,
mean,
this is a guy who I never really knew of art wise. That is someone I could get into. Like if he did something else, I would be interested in seeing what else he did. He has a unique style. It's definitely AAA level, not like some filler artist
right.
that you often get. This is a guy who has detail, can show a lot of things on the page. They are distinct. Uh, 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 at first, I was really blind blown by the cover because it was an Arthur Adams cover, which I think that's his Arthur Adams. Let's see if it says that.
Yeah, where that's got that.
No, it's not. It's Nick Bradshaw and John Roach. But anyway, it looked like Arthur Adams to me, and I was like, "Ooh, I would read that all day." But but anyway, yeah, the art was definitely there, uh, and all the things that are familiar about each of the members sort of showed up in each book. For example,
Yeah,
the Thing being the monster and having to deal with something all on his own because no one has to deal with what he has to deal with. Johnny Storm and always in a relationship that is terrible and just acting like he's the victim and not really, and just going for his feelings and all of that. And Reed Richards and uh, 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 his worry about will Sue leave him for the fish for Submariner. That sort of came up, right?
right,
And then Sue Storm, like not bothered by all this, just handling her business. She's the only one who doesn't have any real issues. You know what I mean? And really the rock and the foundation for the group. And you got all of that in one issue, right?
right,
There's certain, I don't want to say tropes, but there's certain characteristics about these individual characters that have sort of been from the beginning where had their screen time in this book.
right.
So that was one of the reasons why I chose it.
Okay. One of the other aspects that I liked about it was the fact that the civilization of this planet that they're on have all been irradiated, I guess, or all been subjected
Cosmic rays.
cosmic rays. I don't remember ever seeing anything quite like this before, or having seen this done in this way. Um, but yeah, that was kind of interesting. I thought, like, well, the Fantastic Four have always kind of stood apart from the rest of the Marvel universe because they're not really they're a family unit by themselves, but they're not mutants. And like even I guess Franklin Richards is he's a mutant, right?
Yeah.
So
But they're more science heroes with actual powers.
yeah,
Um, so and I don't know if you caught the thing where their first rocket, the one that crashed, the one that they had to where they got their powers, the name of they renamed it as Marvel One.
no, I
So
didn't
there's a
catch
little
that.
panel in that. It's called the Mar, and so they decided this issue before this to go on that actual journey that they were trying to go on when they got sidetracked
Okay,
and go exploring again, and they called it the Marvel Two. Uh,
nice.
and so these people who saw them coming the first time watched them, watched them get their powers, and thought they would be in trouble. So they started irradiating their population to prepare. And Fantastic Four wasn't even thinking about them, right?
Right,
So
right,
they basically have a whole society now based on people who are exposed to cosmic rays and all the things that came out of it are all in this underground city, all fighting the original thing. And they're blaming him because they only did this because
because
they were worried about the Fantastic Four.
right.
So I like all of that. Like the Fantastic Four just mind their own business, and a whole society was built around that using cosmic rays to mess people up.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. This is one I might keep my eye out for moving forward.
I think it'd be worth your time because they're only was it 16 issues in? It's
Yeah,
actually a pretty good series,
yeah,
and you could go back and catch up on this, and I think you'd enjoy it.
definitely. All right.
Uh, all right, the next issue I have is called Collapser, and so I don't know if you are familiar with. I want to say Gerard Way. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yeah, Gerard Way's the lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
Yes, and it's also got a DC Young Animal imprint. It's all him.
That's all him. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's all him. Mikey Way is his brother,
Oh, all right. Okay.
right? So we're talking the new Doom Patrol. We're talking a whole bunch of things that got invented, a bunch of characters, even a new Green Lantern series that just started this month called Far
Interesting.
Sector. So this is all your DC Young Animal is basically his baby. So
Okay.
DC gave him that whole. So Mikey Way, which I guess his brother or nephew or cousin or whatever, came together to create Collapser. And Collapser is very different from what his other books have been, but all of them have been journeys into weirdness, right? Hence
Yeah.
the Doom Patrol. I think there's a Mother Panic, who's another character that lives in Gotham. That was also in it, and this is all part of the universe proper. It's not a separate universe. It's all part of DC. It's just a Young Animal imprint.
Oh wow. Okay, so
So
they're actually adding all of these people to the
yes,
overall canon and
so
roster.
there's a lot of I'm going to say DC Young Animal titles, but there are quite a few. Let's see. There's Cabe Carson has a cybernetic eye.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember Cape Carson, Collapser, Doom Patrol, Eternity Girl, Mother Panic, Shade, the Changing Girl.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother. So it comes from the everything you know. It doesn't change continuity. It just adds to it.
Okay. All right.
So it's all there, but it's the part of the DC universe most of us aren't looking at. Like we're not really looking at the Doom Patrol. So
Right.
whatever they're doing to change the cosmos, we just happen to go back and read sometimes. And he's really good, or this group is really good in that area. So coming back to Collapser, I don't fully understand Collapser. Let's just start with that. I've been, I've been following it, and it's not. It's just like been a journey, and it doesn't always make sense. I know it's connected. I know there's some sense here, but
Right.
they're not really explaining it. They're just saying, "Take my hand and come with me, and you're gonna have fun." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this book does that well. What did you get?
So, well, I'll start with the artwork. I love the artwork because it reminds me of Lupin the Third,
Yeah,
which
yeah, I can see that.
yeah, I don't know if you like Lupin or not, but
Yeah, yeah.
it has that sort of like whimsical, cartoony, um, uh, fluid feel to it. I guess like the characters feel fluid throughout all the panels. Very clear,
Detail.
very detailed. Yeah. So I liked the artwork. I liked the things that it did with some of the panels. So for instance, there's a few panels where like the character is cut out and is the white space
Yeah.
in between the panels, or like a teapot is steaming and the steam is the part of the white space behind the panel, or part of the panel, um, or part of the gutter rather. And so I thought that was really interesting, and I like seeing that kind of stuff. So originally, when I sat down to read this, it was I think right after you had put it in the show notes, and I wasn't in the headspace to actually read it. And I just kind of skimmed through it, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Okay." And then last night I took another read. I was like, "All right, I'm gonna have to actually read this so we can talk about it." So
Thank you.
I went back through, and I kind of I wasn't sure what the hell was going on. It was this old school superhero that um, is getting the keys to the city, and he's living his normal everyday life, and everybody knows he's a superhero, including his wife, and um, so it's a day in the life of him to start off with, and it's very 1950s Americana, that sort of mythology, and then it goes horribly wrong, and it's just this weird acid trip from that moment on for the rest of the comic. And I don't know if I can deal with this guy's anxiety. Like that's I felt anxious and stressed reading through this, because you don't know where it's going or what the hell is happening. Is he on drugs? Is he a paranoid schizophrenic, and he's seeing visions because his mind's not quite right? I had to go back, and I did look through issue 1 and tried to figure out like what was going on in issue 5. You can't really tell what the hell is going on in issue 5 from issue
No, you
1.
can't.
I get that he has this black hole power uh, that allows him to teleport and like absorb items and transport them and things like that. But um, Yeah, I don't know. You really are just kind of along for the ride with this one, and
Yeah,
you're either entertained and interested by the stuff that's going on the page, or you can't follow it, and there's really no in between. I don't think.
I agree. And I would not have recommended it necessarily because I pretty prefer to sort of understand what I'm recommending. I don't really understand all of it, but this one sort of stood out for me so far. And what's good is the art does not take you away; it invites you in,
Right.
right? Because sometimes you get a weird story and the art is so weird that you can't make yourself go through it. But
Right.
the art, for here, for me, the art brings you in. And if you don't have to get anywhere, and this is just come take this ride, if you, because everyone doesn't read comics the same way, right?
Right.
Some people really need to have certain things happen in the book in order for them to stay entertained. And for me, this was, you know what, I don't know where this is going, but the art is interesting in each panel, and I can't predict what's going to happen. And it's not so bananas, even though it is bananas. It's not so bananas that that I have to grab my head or anything, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
whoa, where did that come from? It doesn't get beyond that, right? So I think if you're looking for a comic that looks good, it takes you on a journey, and just write it. This is one I think often a lot of these books sort of forget is they're really too busy trying to keep bringing you the same thing each week. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not all books, certainly. But for this to be sort of a new comic writer, and for I don't know if the artist is new. I don't remember. I have to look him up. He wasn't anyone that I had heard of,
No.
but still, it's good art. Like I could see, what made me think a little bit? Invincible.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit invincible. I'm trying to. It's kind of hard to compare this to anything else that's out there.
Yeah, Invincible was the only thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
That kind of artwork where it is clear and detailed, and not the old beginning Invincible, but more the current Invincible. So I think it's good art. I think this is a guy. If I was just following based on art, I think he's a good visual storyteller. But yes, it's weird. And yes, the guy is anxious. And one thing I wanted to say, you know how some superheroes or characters are just their powers more
Yeah.
than they're an actual
Yeah.
person. This guy is a guy with a problem. If you just took his powers out of the mix, this guy has a problem, right? This guy is a real dude, right? He's a real three-dimensional dude, some millennial that I might have run into at the coffee shop,
Right.
right? It
Right.
would not be uncommon for me to meet this guy, right?
That's interesting. It's almost like they took the the opposite approach that most right. So like um, Grant Morrison or who's the Joss Sweden, right? Like these guys are sort of lauded for their ability to bring real world characterization to superheroes.
Hmm.
This is the opposite. It's like no, we're taking a real world characterization and adding the superhero element to it.
Yes. And I think that is also this. I think that may be what Young Animal brings is a different type of writing and a lot of their books. And so I sort of want to lift them up for telling stories that I haven't really been able to see or in a different way. Now, is this? I think the graphic novel for this book would be amazing. I think you sit somebody down with a graphic novel in your house and you give them a cup of coffee
Well,
and they start reading through it and their whole mind, they can't even be in that room with you anymore. Their whole mind is going to be blown all
well,
the way through.
yeah, but like, how long is the graphic novel going to be? Is it the first 5 issues? Because if it's the first 5 issues, you still have no idea what the hell is going.
But do you want more? Is the question.
Yeah, true.
And I think there's enough here, not urgently wanting more, but interesting. Like think of Mikey said this last week about some books that he read as a kid that he couldn't find the ending of, find the and it
Yeah,
affected him uniquely, and it took him this many years to find the ending of
right,
the story that he
right,
had as a kid. I think you give this to a young person, right? Especially this is sort of a millennial-ish kind of book.
right.
Give it to a young person, and they read it, and they were like, "Well, what happens?" You'll have to pay to find out.
Or it might be 20 years before they find out.
Yeah, but then by then there'll be a graphic novel, book one or two.
Yeah.
So I think all in all, this is a very good effort.
Yeah.
This is not a throwaway book. I've seen a lot of books that have potential, but kind of could be thrown away. This is not one of those.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have any final thoughts. I kind of
Oh,
yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. We'll move on to Emmanuel's issues. His first pick of this week is Injustice 2, issue 37. Have you already read through Injustice 2, the series?
bits and pieces. It didn't compel me as something that I must read. I kind of knew what caused the whole change in the universe, etc.
Okay.
And when I do go back, like they had a part where Eternia, where He-Man came for 2 or 3 episodes, and they brought He-Man into it. He had to fight the evil Superman, and all that. So certain portions of it I like. Um, I, this series, you just can't catch a break. This series, there's no happy ending. This has been going on for like what 30. This is just uh Injustice 2, so now you count Injustice 1. This
Right.
is 3 years of death, destruction, dismemberment, hard times. Someone you love dies. And this is no different. It's a depressing. It's all the toys I like, and they behave. Everyone behaves like they're supposed to behave, but it's just so hurt my feelings stuff. Keeps happening. Like, oh, someone's now they're dead, right? And it's so messed up how they died,
Right.
and then just when they finally find a way to win, then some new thing comes up, and somebody has to die. Now they have less power to fight that evil with, and now they got to deal with this evil. And it seems like every issue I've read sporadically of the Injustice episodes just so depressing. You feel sorry, and what good thing it does make you feel sorry for the remaining good characters in the universe. It
Uh
does make you feel for them. You just do. And even if you didn't, they're gonna kill.
oh.
Oh, okay. Sorry, blink for a second. They need to get revenge. They need to get help. So, but I don't know if I want to keep ongoing reading a depressed book that hurt my feelings so much, man. Stop hurting my feelings. Make me feel good.
All
What do you
right.
think?
Well, we'll give a little bit of an overview. So, I'm not sure who all is at the Fortress of Solitude, but it's Batman, Plastic Man, I think Batgirl or Batwoman. And there's a portal in the Fortress of Solitude, and Plastic Man has ventured through this portal to go find the Titans.
Don't forget his son is reaching in to hold his hand to keep him tethered.
Right. Um, so I mean that's kind of the setup for the issue, right? Uh, yeah, I mean I don't know. I really like the art, and that was what kind of kept me reading because I have not followed this series at all. And part of the reason I wanted to impose the let's not do an issue one anywhere
Mm-hmm.
is to like just all right, pick a random issue and like throw you into the mix and try and see what's going on. Because I do that from time to time. I'll pick something up at the shop that's not something it's already going.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like the art kept me going. It's very clean. It's detailed. It's
I agree with that.
very polished.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had no idea what the hell was going on. Do you know what this alternate uh, area is, like with the floating islands and all that?
It's the Phantom Zone.
Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Superman, in this series, there's always attempt to stop the evil Superman. So you get all the heroes you can to stop fighting them, and then of course Superman wins in the end, and he always wins. Otherwise, the series is over, right? Superman wins in the end, and I guess in the last altercation, that he kicked all the Titans into the Phantom Zone,
Okay.
including Superboy. So or Young Justice maybe there, yeah. But he kicked them all into the Phantom Zone. So Batman, obviously in his all-weather white Batman winter gear,
Yeah, which
right?
I liked.
Needs allies, so he reaches in. He's used Plastic Man, his son, to reach into the Phantom Zone. to pull out some allies to help his war against the evil Superman, which apparently is destined to fail. And so then, guess who else is in there too? Not just the Titans.
No, not just the Titans. And so apparently, Superboy can't come back either, right? He's tied to the Phantom Zone because his heart has been hurt.
Or no, Superman killed him basically. But I guess in the Phantom Zone you can't die. So in his dying breath, send him in the Phantom Zone. You can't actually die in the Phantom Zone. So
Okay.
whatever, maybe Superman punched a hole in his heart, something like that, or whatever it is, or shot laser, his laser vision to his heart, and now Superman, he would normally have died if not for the Phantom Zone saving him, so he can survive along in there. So it doesn't look like they really have restrooms facilities there. So I kind of wonder how that works.
Right.
And I want to say one other thing. It's a very misleading cover.
It is, and I put that in the show notes. That was another reason I kept reading it because I was like, I saw the cover and I was like, okay, and we're going along, and here's this journey through the Phantom Zone, and okay, they found the Titans and they brought them back, and you get to I think the last page or the page before the last page, and bam, a laser beam goes right through Tim Drake's heart, and we find out that it's Zod.
Right? Like this should be the cover for the book after this.
Right.
Right? So why did you lie to me on the cover? I'm not used to DC lying to me like that. It makes me think we're back in the 60s where they would just throw anything on the cover to get you to buy it.
Yeah, that's a good way to get you to buy the book, though.
Apparently it worked on you. No, it didn't work on you. You didn't buy this one, so I can't give you credit. But it worked on somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The last panel or last page, I guess it's a 2-page thing. So the last 2 pages of Zod holding Plastic Man by the throat is kind of, I don't know, it's pretty cool.
It is. It's very badass.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I tried to go back, and I think I read the first issue of Injustice 2, and it starts off, and Superman is in a cage, and Batman, or not really a cage, but like a containment area, I guess. And he's talking to Batman, and I was like, I don't know if I can follow this series. I don't know if I can go 36 issues to the point I was just at. Um, I am interested to maybe continue on going 38 and forward to see what happens. Maybe just in this little story arc, but
Or watch a YouTube guy which will encapsulate everything in one video. They're doing that now, right?
oh yeah. Do you? All right. So shout out to Comics Explained. Do you watch Rob Jefferson?
On occasion, I do.
I like his
I
videos.
he's animated, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Any last thoughts about this particular issue? Because
No, and I gotta say, it's good art. I feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm not really watching his art because his art is compelling. I want to see, I'm really feeling all the characters and the look and the
yeah,
white Batman suit because who even had one except for 60s Batman? I thought only 60s Batman had snowshoe,
right.
had snowshoe cowl or whatever this is, and the furry coat and all that. But and why do you need the Fortress of Solitude? Isn't the Fortress of Solitude climate controlled anyway? Right? I mean, Lois Lane walks around there in a skirt all the time. Right?
Yeah.
How is it? But anyway, yeah, it feels like this art. They got a good artist, right? And I don't know who's reading it. Maybe we're just not part of demographic graphic that this is geared towards, and maybe people who play the game. I don't know if you have Injustice 2.
No, and that was pretty much all I knew about the whole Injustice moniker and label. I guess it was just the video game. I haven't played the video game. I don't know the lore behind it. So yeah, that was completely. I was completely blind going into this. It was nice reading this issue because it was like, hey, a friend just handing you something like, hey, check this out.
Hmm.
So I enjoyed that aspect of it. The next and last issue that we're going to be talking about, which may push us well over the hour mark for this episode, is Shirtless Bear Fighter, issue number 1. And even this being an issue number 1, you're kind of thrown into the middle of everything that's going on. I guess we should say Shirtless Bear Fighter is exactly what it sounds like. It is a guy who is named Shirtless who is a bear fighter.
And he punches bears in the face.
Yes. I guess there's a evil demonic bear attack that's happening in the city, and the special forces have to go out into the woods and recruit Shirtless to come back and help them fight these bears. Um, I have a lot of thoughts running through my head about this
Let,
issue.
let me start. So first of all, Shirtless Bear Fighter is part silly, zany comedy and part very, very taking itself seriously, and all things in between, all at the same time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There is, because every character, there's no character in this story that thinks they're in a comedy.
No.
Everything is delivered with straight, lace. Like, this is a reality. This is how it works. This is, so Shirtless Bear Fighter is butt naked, living in the woods, punching bears. Okay, that already right there, you can't have a real story like that, right?
Right.
And yet, this is actually, it makes sense. There is one character, a woman in there, who's saying this doesn't make sense, but by the end of the book, she's on board too.
Yes.
Like, Caesar Intica, like, what the heck are you talking about? Why are we recruiting a naked guy living in the woods? He's got a big bushy beard, and his junk is fuzzed out, but they still showing it.
Oh my God.
Until he goes into the city, you got fuzzed out junk all the way through.
Can I
just
interject real quick? All right, so the
Yeah.
the pixelated penis. I saw that in the first panel that it appears in, and I was like, oh, that's cute. And then you keep reading, and it's just it's panel after panel of pixelated penis.
Yes. And you think, okay, it's a little silly, I can go beyond that, and then he shows up in a bear plane.
Yes.
It is a jet plane made from bears,
made from all of the dead bears that he has
made
killed.
from all of the bears whose ass he kicked.
Right.
What is it, how can he fly such a thing? How is such a thing even possible? Yet he jumps into that super bear plane like it's just and even the people that are like, what, we got a plane falling us, where is this? Oh, it's Shirtless, right? And his name is Shirtless, just doesn't change. Like, even when you go into his history, it never changes his name to like Ralph or anything. It's just Shirtless. Right. And then he has a bear fighter, and you can see there's like a bear face on the front. Like how do you get the bear face just right on the front of your fighter? Then he goes and he just.
Did you notice that his cabin is made of bears?
Yes, the entire Wonder Woman jet he has is made of bear.
No,
now, I don't know how he got
too.
the glass. Right? How he got the glass you can see through. Like, is that made from bear eyes or something? I don't know, but you can't make a plane out of bears, and so you just got to accept that ridiculousness. But the art is good here. The action is good here.
Yeah.
And everybody else is taking it seriously. Like, the world needs Shirtless to save us because bears are invading, and bears apparently are bulletproof.
Yeah.
Because people are shooting at the bears, and bears are not even, and then if you think Shirtless may go down because he has to take 2 bears at once, right? And then he's just, and he, and in some ways it reminded me of Axe Cop. Are you familiar with Axe Cop?
Yeah, it's a bit too ridiculous for me to watch.
Yeah, it's too ridiculous. This isn't there. Axe Cop is too ridiculous. But remember, Axe Cop is actually written by a 6-year-old. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So that makes sense. But but it reminded me in some ways of, it's just some stuff that's just going to happen here that are not going to make sense, and you just need to run with it because it's fun. And I got to say, out of all the books we read this week, this was the most fun by far. Like, I would tell anyone, you need to read Shirtless Bear Fighter and just have a good time.
Right.
And I went on and read the second issue after this, and I won't get into spoilers. But if you think you got all the ridiculous stuff worked out from watching this, and you willing to accept it, then they are gonna they're going to exponentially increase the ridiculousness, and you're just going to laugh and have fun, and
Yeah.
it's going to be real, and there's an arch nemesis, and all this. It's like a real story in a semi ridiculous universe. And then there's the black guy who was like, I remember back in Nam when Shirtless saved my life from the bear. Right? I don't know how I would have made it if it wasn't for him. And this is all serious. Like everybody thinks this is serious except us.
And don't call them pancakes.
Oh yeah, don't. And yeah, he is all man, and you do not call him pancakes. You call him flapjacks, and he will kick your ass for mispronunciating that stuff. Right? Like
Yeah.
slam the table. They're flapjacks, right? And then you have like, how do you bribe him? They give him
They
like
paid,
a year's supply.
yeah, they paid him in
They
flapjacks
paid him
and
in
syrup.
flapjacks and syrup. And he almost didn't take it, but then next thing you know, the bear fighter jet is out there, and he's going to save the world from the bears.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is a Samurai Jack kind of level ridiculousness in a lot of ways.
This is way beyond Samurai Jack. Ridiculous.
I know, I was trying to bring it down some. But, if this was an anime, now can't you tell me people would watch this anime series? They watch The Simpsons and they watch all these Family Guy, Shirtless Bear Fighter, right?
Yeah,
and let's go ahead and leave the pixelated junk in there so we can make it rated kind of mature. And I don't see why that is not an animated series. You can watch
this. This is some Adult Swim shit for sure.
Yes, and this is Adult Swim shit that's watchable. This should be an animated series, dude. Come on, you watch Shirtless Bear Fight. Can you just imagine sitting with your girlfriend and all your buddies and watching Shirtless Bear Fight together? Just talking about it is a website in and of itself.
Oh man, can we point out the fact that when he's born, he has a beard?
Yep,
and
he has a beard and big dangly junk. Pixelated penis.
Yes. Oh my god.
But remember, we don't know if he's newborn, but he definitely is a carryable infant with a full-on beard. So he's never been. And you got to figure, there's no barbers in the woods. It must keep redeeming itself at that size, shape, and thickness. Right? You cut it off, it'll just grow back. You know what I mean? It must have Wolverine healing powers or something. Right? And he got no other power. You don't know how strong he is. He can't lift a building, but he damn sure can punch a bulletproof bear in the face.
Maybe his powers only work against bears.
But he's picked up, remember he jumped up in the air and caught rockets in mid-flight?
Yeah.
Right? That's a little more than there. And then grabbed the rocket in his hand and slapped bears with him and stuffed it down his throat, which can only happen in the comics, right? This is just a fun read. And definitely, I just had a lot of fun reading this. So thanks to Emmanuel picking this book, making me read this, because I definitely wouldn't have read it if it wasn't for you. Or I would have probably, but who knows. But now I have to go and read all of them. I can't live a Shirtless Bear Fighter life without having read all of those books. Can you imagine if this is an ongoing series? How do you keep this going?
I think it's pretty
in space.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. You just keep making shit up.
Yep, and he has to go to Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the bear capitals of the universe, and fight the evil bear regime and redeem them all. That's a whole nother series right there.
Yeah. You know what's funny is my wife and I have a friend. He mentioned this comic to me. Had to be 2 years ago. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. You've lost your mind. I'm not reading that. And then it shows up and I was like, why does this sound so familiar? Shirtless Bear Fighter. And I'm looking through and I was like, oh my God, this is the same comic that our other friend recommended like 2 years ago. And so I would have never read it otherwise. But because of, this show that we've created and having Emmanuel submit it, I actually sat down to read it. So
you need to go back to that friend and say, you know what, you were right.
I will, and I'll let him know that it was another friend that forced me to read it. So
it took two of you, but I went in.
Yes. Oh man, I'm a little disappointed that he puts pants on to go to the city. I thought he would just be
Well,
naked, the entire time.
yeah, well, you know, at least that just shows he has actually some respect because he didn't realize he really had any respect for any living human beings. So maybe he has a little bit.
Well,
Like, okay, I'm not going to put her shirt on, but I will cover my junk.
I was gonna say, I guess he's shirtless bear fighter, not naked bear fighter. So
There you go. You have to change his name. But
maybe
his kid,
maybe he has a brother, yeah, or
who's naked bear fighter, right? And that's their issue is over pants. That's the reason why they're estranged.
yeah, that could work.
All
Um,
right.
I want to point out too that so this is an Image comic book, and Image is all independent creators. The company that the guy owns, that I guess owns the rights to the book or owns the IP, Fuzzy Wipes LLC,
I
which
didn't know that. I
which
did because they brought it up in the book.
yes,
Actually,
yeah. So there's Fuzzy Wipes. There's a billboard for Fuzzy Wipes later on, like towards the end of the issue, and I was like, oh my
uh,
god, that's hilarious.
can you build a Now here's the thing. Can you build a comic company off of Shirtless Bear Fighter?
That's a good question.
A universe where
A
Shirtless Bear
a
Fighter.
whole universe.
Yes, in the Shirtless Bear Fighter universe, I think the way they do it is you have some other weird character come up, and you do a spinoff.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Some other one of character. And then, of course, 6 years down the line, you have the Shirtless League who has to fight
So you got
evil.
shirtless shark fighter and
Yeah,
shirtless.
see, there you go, right? But it doesn't have to be shirtless. It can be like underwater pantsless, or it can be, underwater rock thrower, or just whatever it is. Something, two things together that don't normally, fit.
Okay.
And they have their own domain because I think there's got to be what is the underwater version of Shirtless Bear Fighter, right? It's got to be Trunkless Swimmer, trunkless shark fighter or something. So, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a fighter thing, but something unique put together, and someone who believes that they are as real as anybody else. The Shirtless Bear Fighter has no doubt that he is as real as Wolverine and kicks much ass. His walk, his stance,
Yeah.
his attitude, everything. He is a serious dude, and he punches bears in the face.
He would give Chuck Norris a run for his money.
Yes, all those things you say about Chuck Norris, you can say about Shirtless Bear Fighter. Every single one. And I'm thinking he could be the inspiration.
Maybe, yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on shirtless bear fighter?
No final thoughts.
I think we covered it all. Yeah. Thanks again, Emmanuel, for throwing that at us.
Good choice.
Yeah, I think that's issue of the week for sure. And the funny thing is, I was like in the chat that we had going before we were doing this episode. I was like, no issue number ones. We've done so many number one issues. Like, let's try to do something a little bit different. And then Emmanuel, I guess, was having a hard time. Well, I'm not sure if he was having a hard time picking any comics, but I was like, you know what, dude, throw an issue number one in there if you don't have a second issue. And then he came up with this. So. It was the last issue added to the pile, and definitely worth it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of number ones out there, even this week,
Uh,
especially if you count annuals.
New stuff coming out, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can actually pull up. Are you a member of leagueofcomicgeeks.com?
No, I'm just not aware of their existence.
Okay, so the League of Comic Geeks is a website that you can join, and it gives you all of the new issues that are coming out, and you can kind of add them to a list and all that kind of stuff.
They have an app or no?
I don't know if they have an app or not. I'm just using the website.
Oh yeah, I've seen this site, and I thought that maybe I would join just because they let you sort of review each book.
Yeah.
That everyone can write their own reviews.
All right, and on that note, I will say that we have no affiliation, no sponsorship, but if anybody from League of Comic Geeks is watching this, then I'll be more than happy to promote your product.
Yes.
Give me a call.
And show it. Show it in our video. We would love to share and make use of and join the community.
All right. And on that note, Corner Comics is out.
Peace.